Hey, think back to the last mission trip you led. The students came home fired up. They couldn't stop talking about what God had done in them and through them. They were sharing their stories, obviously sharing and posting pictures on the gram, and promising things like, "This trip just changed my life." And even better, like, "I'm going to share Jesus with my entire campus." But then life happened. They got home. They started school. Sports resumed. Homework began to pile up. Your ministry meetings kind of settled back into the basic Wednesday or Sunday evenings. And before long, the spiritual momentum, that great summer trip, began to fade. So here's the question: how do you keep a mission trip from becoming just another memory? I mean, how do you help students move from a week of serving to a lifetime of living on mission? Last episode, we explored a practical framework I called the 5 pillars of mission trip follow up as we talked about building the bridge from the mission site back home. Well, today I want to take that conversation even a step further. To do that, joining me is my dear friend Tim Wadsworth from Taylors, South Carolina, just north of Greenville. Tim is a seasoned student pastor who has led countless mission trips and has spent years helping students translate mountaintop experiences into everyday life. So I got my coffee. You got yours. I got my Pike's Market as usual. And we're going to be taking this time to have this conversation with Tim. Now, Tim and I have already been having some full disclosure here. I got some gentlemen out here doing some yard work. You may or may not hear a massive weed whacker, a bushwhacker, or some kind of, something going on. You may not. I don't know. But it's everyday life. We've also been having internet struggles. It's everyday life. So we'll see how it goes, Tim. Tim, welcome aboard, man.
Oh man, I'm so happy to be with you, Doc. Thank you for having me. I'm humbled.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Before we get started, remember, if you're watching on YouTube and you're not become a sub, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe to this so you do not miss an episode, as well as on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure you're subscribing to those. And the Thursday Tools email. Please make sure you're getting those emails. And Tim reads them. He'll respond to me. Even gives me some nice comps sometime. I really appreciate it, Tim. Trying to create these resources to get into your hands to help you realize I'm not alone in ministry. I'm part of a big team for the kingdom of Jesus. So, Tim, here we go. Let's jump right into it. Of those
Let's do it.
yeah, let's go. 5 ministry pillars. Pillar number 1 has to do with the home. And I don't mean just home generic. I mean specifically their home they live in, mom, dad, their home environment. How do we best translate the mission trip and partner with those back home? Yes, their parents, but even their siblings. So, in the last episode, I gave a number of suggestions. You've looked through them. You've listened to this previous podcast. What are some of your thoughts on what I shared? And or do you have, I'll be honest, even better ideas than what I'm doing?
Yeah, I don't know if they're better. I was super encouraged listening to it and considering everything that you covered. So much of it is so brilliant. It's got so much of Rich Brown just woven in it. It was humbling for me and my team to process together. I agree. I think what you do pre-mission trip, post-mission trip are just as
Mm,
important on what happens on the trip. And so normally what tends to happen is
yeah,
pre-mission trip, it's what to pack, what to prepare for, have you paid your remaining
right.
balance? I feel like it's a lot of the nuts and bolts that aren't as fun per
Logistics.
se.
Yeah, yeah,
Then you go
right.
on the trip, God moves. I
Hmm.
always say the good, the bad, the ugly, right? Like so many
Hmm.
incredible things
Hmm.
can happen, so many hard things, unexpected things. You're just kind of open handed saying, okay,
Hmm.
God, like we're going to be faithful. You do what you want to prune us and to flesh this out. But I'm trying to get better with the post mission trip. We've been doing some things that I think have been effective, but what I love that you talked about was the idea of personally touching base with each parent. I, I'm not
Yeah,
very good. I'm not good with that. I'm good with getting all the parents together to kill multiple birds with one stone. And I can share a
right.
little bit more about how we do that if you think that's helpful. But
Yeah.
I could definitely tell one of the ways that I need to get stronger as a student pastor is that personally touching base with each parent. I think that's brilliant.
I really, say it again, Rich. Matter of fact, even yesterday at church, and I'm not the student pastor anymore. I'm 11th, 12th grade guys leader. But I spent Wednesday night, we went out for ice cream, 40, 50 high schoolers at a local Monkey Joe's ice cream. Yes, they just got a shout out there in Forest, Virginia. We overwhelmed them in a good way. We took care of them economically. We benefited. They were beneficiaries. But I spent almost an
Yes.
hour with, I won't say his name, but one of our dudes. He's a senior, rising senior. And I saw his mom yesterday in between services. I spent 15 minutes just chatting with her, just connecting with her son. She so appreciated. Now, that's the principle. It's just, again, I'm now one of your volunteers, basically. I'd be running, helping with your high school senior guys, to role play
Yeah.
this, right? Even though it's not coming off a mission trip, it's the principle. Looking parents in the eye, hey, this is what I'm seeing in your son. And I did give him significant shout outs. And she's like, thanks for being part of my team. I think that's exactly what we want to be. I'm talking now as a dad for a minute. Back when my kids were in student min, I knew I was big enough that I'm not big enough. I need a team. So that's where we can come
Yes.
in as student ministry leaders to really partner with them. And I'm really, Tim, my real heart goes out to those parents who aren't yet followers of Jesus. They're not yet apprentices, disciples of Jesus. They're not been born again yet. They also need to know, maybe not the same spiritual level that we would talk about with, some of the other Christian parents, but at least to know,
Yeah.
wow, your kid rocks. And thank you so much for letting them go. So anyway, I'm a huge fan of that. Following up with mom and dad, mom or dad, whatever their condition is, thanking them again for letting them go, and at least think one thing that was significant.
No, I love that. And I even really appreciate what you shared about if, let's say, mom and dad don't know Christ. Well, that's
Yeah,
low hanging fruit to be the hands and feet of
absolutely. Let's not
Jesus
be
and
intimidated by
encourage
that.
them.
Let's lean
Right.
in.
And I think it's if you can win the kid, I think you can easily win mom and dad. So I love that you're thinking about capitalizing on that. But that personal touch with
Right.
each parent is huge. I mean, Rich, you're a gift to your student pastor. I've always joked if I can have 50 Rich Browns,
Who
I could
happens to
take
be
over
my
the
son.
world.
Yeah.
I, I
Yeah. Sorry, go
I'm
ahead. I'm
telling
sorry.
you. Well, no, it's a gift to your student pastor, right? Like he's not having to do it. You're doing that on behalf of the ministry. And what a key role you're playing on that leadership team. And I think any student pastor listening to this needs to start thinking, how do I equip my leaders to do what Rich is done with this parent? I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of wisdom there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. So I mentioned in the last podcast, building a home rhythm, the idea of like getting our students to think even before they left the mission site, what can you do to serve a sibling, serve mom, serve dad? Do you do anything like that, or did that kind of resonate with you? Because that's something I don't think we're doing. The parent will say, "Hey, they were serving." In our case, it was a Hispanic church. They were serving that Hispanic church in that community, but they don't help around the house. And you kind of like, touche. They're right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think thinking through ways that this can grow legs and arms once they get home is so smart. I mean, one of the ways we try and do it, I've shared this with you, Doc, about we think the most effective way to help that happen in the home is, once you're home, a week or so has gone by, we try and have them over to our
Mm-hmm.
house for dinner, and not just student, mom and dad to come. I think there's something about hearing the shared stories, hearing the laughter, hearing the memories, and like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly. You're welcoming them in to what happened, and I think there's a type of accountability that then goes to the student.
Right.
Once mom and dad know how kiddo was acting on mission trip or what God did, I think it's easier for them to know. It holds their feet to the fire about not just being one way on mission trip and then being a complete fraud at home. I mean, we know God's word says when a man goes to a mirror, then turns from the mirror and forgets his own reflection, we don't want them to forget their reflection. So welcoming mom and dad into that, then as the primary disciple maker, if it doesn't line up
Mhm.
or add up, well, they can then intentionally speak into that with the student.
Right. And you lean into this a little bit. You have a gathering point at your house, grill out, and it's just not for the students on the team. You actually intentionally are bringing mom and dad. Is that correct?
Yeah,
For like a
we
follow up
do
meeting,
two.
follow up conversation.
Yep, we do two different touch points. So we try and get the team together twice. The first one is
Okay.
welcoming mom and dad into it. And then there's very intentional things we're trying to do to win in family ministry. The second one we do is we want those students to be bringers. So we encourage those students. Think of students in our youth group. Since we're one youth group, you're really good at talking about not making sure that division happens. As one youth group, who do
Right.
you want to personally invite into this for next year? And then
Mhm.
instead of bringing
Mhm.
mom and dad with you for hamburgers and hot dogs, bring that junior, bring that sophomore, bring that freshman. And now we want to welcome
Right.
them into why this is important for their summer.
Hmm. So that works out well when we get into the category of the student ministry, but
Yes.
it's the same principle. Same principle. All right, cool. Now our second pillar is local church. And I think Tim, in our conversations previous to this podcast, I think many times we do well with this pillar, maybe not always number one, which is the home. But what are you doing, or do you, something you saw or you listened to last episode that kind of resonated with you, and or something you're doing well? You could encourage our listener to when it comes to connecting our student ministry team to the mission team to the local church, to us, our
Yeah.
home church.
I I'm so happy you covered that. I do think it's a very important responsibility and role of the student pastor to be the greatest ambassador for the sake of your ministry. In any way that you can let God's people know what is going on, whether locally in your city or in America. Obviously, great platforms are social media. Letting
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
know, I think people need to be encouraged with what's going on. There's a lot of people who think this next generation is just doomed. No, we
Right.
need to let them
Right.
know all of the great things that are happening. So I love some of the things that you touched on. I really like the sharing the testimony in what I like to call big church. And any way you
Yeah.
can partner with your lead pastor or whoever has a say in what gets a microphone
Yes.
on Sunday morning,
Yes.
to me, that's the most effective thing. Is you can make highlight videos, you can make social media posts, but you're not going to reach the whole demographic of your church.
Right.
But
Right.
whoever has the mic has the power.
Yeah.
So I think you walk into like I just became an elder. So I have a
Okay.
little more say now at the actual table of representing student
Right.
ministry, which I wish I would have had a long time ago. But standing before the church, I like to do two things. Thank you for giving. Your sacrificial tithes and
Yes.
offerings went to
Yes.
this student to help financially for him to go, and this is what God did. And then we talk about how many people came to know Jesus, what was done. Your giving was not done in vain. And now the ramifications of that in our youth group. Thank you for giving. Look at
Right.
what God did. Now, this is what we are inheriting as a student ministry, and we're going to benefit as a whole, as a church, not just in our youth group. So I think
Good.
any student pastor listening, whatever you have to do to convince, manipulate, cheat, and lie your way to the microphone on Sunday, you got to make it happen.
That's Tim's words, not mine.
I'm just kidding. No cheating, no
You know,
lying, but you
yeah,
got
yeah,
to
yeah.
figure out a way to get that mic.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And I think even before, again, so much of the heavy lifting is on the front side of a trip, right? But even having a lot of this done, the post, especially connecting with your home church, have the game plan already in place before you leave. In other words, already have those conversations, your lead pastor, whomever, like you said, whomever, what can we do to not highlight us, but highlight kingdom advancement through the lives of our students? And already have that set in, not just the permission givers, yes, but deeper than that, sharing, like you said, the mission and vision of what did happen. That those adults, especially, come on, especially the older folks who are typically the most heavy giving of a church. And we're the ones that say they need to get on our page, start listening to our music. In reality, they've been faithfully attending that church for 30, 40 or more years. I'm concerned that we kind of push them off to the side, marginalize them. They need to hear
Yes.
the good things that God is doing. Because do you know, bro, God is doing some amazing things. I'm seeing hunger. I'm watching some of my dudes yesterday, my small group, sitting right near me. I always sit second row. I'm like, bring me the foul balls. I want the spit. I want to be right in the front during service. And I looked over, and a bunch of my guys, instead of being in the back this week, were in the front, lifting hands in worship. Some friends of mine behind them walked right up to them afterward, adult couple my age. They walked right up and said, "Wow, thank you guys for worshiping." And I told those guys later, I went up and gave a big hug and squeeze and said, dudes, thanks for sitting up front. You think, Rich, that has nothing to do with missions. Yeah, but it's the same principle. They're now highly
Agreed.
engaged. They were encouraging other parts of the body just by Second Timothy, First Timothy 4:12, being an example to the believer. Anyway, hey, we talk about prayer requests before we go. And I mentioned last episode, what about creating post-trip prayer cards? And I have like a 30-day challenge. Let's go. How do we now take what God did and get our community, our believers, the church, to now continue praying for? And now we can actually give names and faces. And, that to me really resonates with people. So there's a lot. If you didn't listen to the last episode, go back and listen to it. Yes, let's connect with our local church. Tim, especially you hit on something financially. If there were
Yeah.
people that provided resources, whether it was actual, money or other types of resources, let's send our students out to their traditional church, right? Sunday school class or their small group, or do something to get just not us as the adult, but get the students out in front of sharing the good things that God did.
No, I love it. So we for many years, we in the last year or so, we haven't pushed something called habits as hard.
Yes.
But I feel like there was a decade in our ministry where we lived by the word habits, but it was more of a
Yep.
acronym.
Oh
And
yeah.
the
Go back to
I,
purpose driven youth ministry, the old orange book.
that's it. And I is
Exactly.
involvement in the church.
Yep.
I
Yep.
stands
Yep.
for involvement in the church. So I think too, I think it's not talked about enough about how the student pastor needs to not silo the student ministry, build
Exactly.
relationships with these other pastors up and down this hall right here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
go, hey, we just got back from a mission trip. I saw that you're having a men's breakfast in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay, that has nothing to do with student ministry, but hey, how about we open up men's breakfast with three of my senior guys sharing about what God did, or asking them to continue praying in these ways? You're hitting more of the outside the bubble of student ministry, and I think that's hitting the bullseye with the local church.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So yeah, we've got to connect well upon the return with their homes, with their local church, our local church, then also the student ministry itself. And when I say student ministry, I'm thinking in two levels. I'm thinking the initial team that went, the student ministry team, you've already mentioned it, but also the entire student ministry, because you could have potentially half that didn't go. And I mentioned last episode, I do want to lean in on this as well. You will have students that actually wanted to go. Maybe their parents For example, we had a lot of students from unsaved homes back when I was serving on Seattle. They thought we were a cult. We believed in the infallibility of Scripture. You're one of those extremists, right? Seriously. And so a lot of times those students weren't allowed to go because what were we doing?
Mm,
Advancing the gospel. And that parents like, you ain't doing that. You also have parents that tell their child no because we're going to grandma's house that week, or we're going, that's our big trip. We paid for this months ago. And they're like, I can't
right.
go. I don't want to make this punitive on them. Also realize there are some students that just aren't spiritually there, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I'd rather have them not go than go and try to fake it to make it. That's not what we're talking
Yep.
about. I'll let to say, Tim, you may have half your group that didn't go. So we have to really do some things to recreate oneness and not create, oh, we're the alpha team, or you're the beta team. What are
No.
some things you think about when it comes to reconnecting the students?
Well, I think you're again. I think you're hitting the bullseye. Eh, the kids that are going are actually the minority versus the majority of students that just come every Sunday night for youth group. So I think you've got to think of a way to not make them feel like the outsiders, or even if they don't feel
Mhm.
like an outsider, you've got to figure out a way to let them know what God did, and make them feel a part of it. Because God's word even says, when one rejoices, we all rejoice.
Yes.
When one's hurting, we all hurt. So we
Right.
try and do
Good.
it in two ways. We don't do this well. And so this is where I was humbled listening to the podcast going, ugh, I've been in student ministry almost 2 decades. Why have I never tried this? So I really appreciate your insight and wisdom. But I think I alluded to it a couple minutes ago about them being a bringer into that second dinner.
I love it.
But then we also have a summer celebration night where it's open mic testimony. So like we don't have teaching per se. We
Mhm.
allow them to come. And so we make it a really big point to let them know that even if you didn't go on these trips, we want to hear from you. But even if you didn't go on these trips, we want you to really tune in and listen to these students, because we want you to be praying and considering now about coming with us in
Yes.
12 months. And
Right.
I think if you want to get these kids to be involved next summer, it starts in August. It starts 12 months
Mhm.
out from the trip to make that a reality for the kiddo. And honestly, the only way I can win the student in going is if I have mom and dad being owners in the vision of the trip. So I think it really starts there. But those are the two things we're doing. They're probably not the best.
Yeah.
As I'm going through your notes of everything you talked about, I think, man, we could really beef this up.
I already received some input. Kyle Hoffsmith, he has his own podcast as well, a mutual friend of ours through Walt Mueller. He reached out to me last week and said, wow, response to last week's episode, last episode, he goes, wow, that was a really good idea. The one of, let's develop a student ministry wide service project, maybe 1 to 2 months out from the mission trip. Because now that's
Yeah.
a way that, like a one off, if you will, a Saturday morning or whatever. And I really think our schools, what could we do to even serve, the traditional, let's clean the garden beds or let's clean out lockers or whatever, getting permission from the middle school, high school, because actually that's
Yeah.
also their mission field. And that really helps them resonate of these are our schools in the area. Just a thought, but doing something to create a ministry project. And it may not be what I call missional, meaning gospel centered, but it's more ministry driven, where it's just more serving centered, but gets them all
Yeah.
together. And I'm a fan of get those leadership students that you've already entrusted with to do other projects or other leadership roles from your trip, get them to plan it out. And Tim, in your situation, my brain goes here. Okay, dude, I'm already thinking the time you have your celebration time, students together, bring the others, say, hey guys, maybe you couldn't go on that trip that we just did, but here's what we have coming up. And your students just unload with the rest of their team. Hey, we got this coming up, guys. Let's all jump on the wagon. Let's do this together. Thoughts, bro?
I don't know. I
I'm a
feel like
dreamer. I'm sorry, I'm a dreamer. Sorry, not sorry.
you no, you know what? You are, I would call you a mountain climber. I'm more of a maintainer. So a maintainer really needs to rub shoulders with mountain climbers because you're good at getting us out of the consistent. I wouldn't call it a rut. That's too strong of a word, but I'm very consistent. And if I've done it one way, that's the way I'm going to do it next
Sure, I
year. But
understand.
to infuse some of these ideas, man, I think anytime you can make a student go from a renter to an owner,
Right.
you're winning. And so thinking through those ideas on how to help it grow those arms and legs, what do you have to lose, right? Like the way I'm wired is
Yeah.
once I get home, I've got 10 other things coming in the
Right.
pipeline that I've got to think about and get done. But being really intentional
I know. I know.
with how do we keep that momentum going? I've got to grow there.
Yeah. Well, step back 20 steps. It's not just the student that gets overwhelmed when they get back home. Yeah, they got, school year coming up, everything else. So do we. We go
Yeah.
to the very next thing, right? So, and that's where I think even doing something highly intentional before the school year starts with the whole middle school, the whole high school, or combo, depending on the size of your ministry, together. By
Hey,
the way,
Rich,
Tim,
that makes me wonder what
yeah,
and I don't know how safe it is to verbally process out loud, but with what you just said, I
that's
wonder
how
if
you
having the
learn.
mission trip, yeah, I wonder if having the mission trip in early June is smart because then
Right.
you don't have that rat race of the school year so
Yes.
close breathing down your neck.
Well, and when I say this, this is program. Programs come and go. Structures come and go. Base it on
Yep.
purpose, right? We all know that. At least I hope we know that. But for us, tangibly speaking or practically speaking, think there's usually nine. We usually had 9 weeks in the summer. Last day of school, first day of school is usually 9 weeks, right? So this is in the weeds a little bit, but it answers that question or it answers that thought. Week 5, we rented out a camp, ran our own camp, rented out a camp. That was the only week they allowed us to rent because they did their own camps weeks 1 through 4, and the others. Week 5 was the
Oh,
one
wow.
week they rent out. So therefore, we're landlocked in the calendar week 5. So my first few years, this is out in Seattle. My first few years, a couple years, we did post camp. 2 weeks out, we did our mission. Dude, that was horrible. Here's why: they're only 2 weeks out of school. A lot of my students couldn't go 2-a-day football, band practice already. They're already involved in the school rhythm, right? I mean, we're shooting this the beginning of August. They're already right now. I got students yesterday morning at Sunday Church talking about, yeah, I got 2 of these. I'm so tired. Some are already in band, local Christian school. So I'm just saying,
Yep.
right? So what we did the next year, we pivoted to week 3, 2 weeks before camp. It almost appears opposite. Doing ministry should come after becoming spiritual at camp, right? Bro,
Yeah.
it was a game changer because all of a sudden, the 3 months of mission training that we did, which was highly, highly discipleship driven, all of a sudden, those students came out of the mission experience. Half of our high school went. That's 25 out of 50. Here's the quick number: 25 students out of 50 went. They then, when it came to camp, had a much more mature view on minute. There was no more pranks. There was no more of the drama. It literally killed the drama. There was such
Wow.
a depth that took place. And we did a combo, middle and high school, for summer camp, teaching together. All the other programs were split, but 100 some students would go, and that top 25 literally trickled down economics, right? Literally trickled down to the rest of the camp. I saw such depth and maturity, and the fields are white into harvest, if you will, of what God would do during camp because of the mission trip 2 weeks earlier. I just took a
Ooh.
little bit to unpack that, but I'm so glad we did it that way. And then the last few weeks, yeah, a lot of us took our vacations, but we also did that service project during that time. Gave us that
Ah.
4 or 5 week window. Now we can do something just before school.
Ooh. I like
Yeah,
that.
we hit
I
it
like
toward the beginning of the summer. You're right. We hit it toward the beginning of the summer of break.
that's so good. I hope anyone that's listening, there's some things we can't be open-handed with, but I do like what you said about the way we program, the way we execute. That can
Great.
shift and mold all the time. And so to even think through our calendars, I mean, if we're going to make those pivots, August and September is the time to do it.
Yeah, and it's not just what we do. I'm a huge fan when I do coaching on this, when like my engaged cohort and stuff on how to do events. Leading a guy through that right now, him and his intern. And it's like not just what we do, but when we do it. Uh, so anyway.
That's huge. No, I
Yeah.
love that. That
Yeah.
you've got my wheels spinning. I'm
And
thinking.
let's think through this too. You lean into your team as you're coming back, letting them know we are one. I mentioned that as well last time. We are one ministry. Let us not become arrogant or proud. Luke 10. Satan fell as lightning from the sky. Jesus points that story out. Now, it's a story, it's an event, it took place, it happened. His pride, I will be like the Most High. I will be not better than, I will be even to Jehovah. No, you're not. Bye. So then when they came back from their mission trip to 72, and they're all like, wow, this is amazing. Demons are hopping out of windows. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And he's like, just rejoice, your names are in the book of life. And I love that. And I shared it again last episode. But hitting that story, that Luke 10 narrative with our students at last night, even how that translates back home. Yes, God used you. Rejoice that you are born again. And so are your friends back home. Let's keep a posture of humility. While we're having a posture of graciousness and gratitude, also a posture of humility and not arrogance. Let
Nope.
no one despise your youth, but be an example.
Yeah. Nope. It's huge. And as you were talking, I'm trying to think, how can I reiterate? We are one student ministry. We're one youth group, and I think actions speak louder than words. And the best way to do it is to get other students to invite in. Right? This
Yes.
isn't dodgeball. This isn't
Yes.
dodgeball. I want you. I don't want you. If someone comes to me who's a peer and goes, Wadsworth, you've got to be there, it hits different than a student pastor doing it or a leader.
Right.
So I think that's the secret
You're a
sauce.
drummer. You give drum lessons, and you've been a drummer since you were in high school. So I'm beating this drum right now, bro. It's like leaning into your student leadership team. Hey, like you already said, we got this coming up in a week or two when we get home. We're going to have our, grilling out the Wadsworth house, and you're going to bring somebody who's your one, who's the person in our ministry right now that did not come, already thinking
Bingo.
ahead. What will we do? Because students reach students, not just evangelistically, but but by nurturing as well,
Yeah.
relational connections.
But dare I say, Rich, and I can be corrected. You can rebuke me. Dare I say that type of mission field might be more important than what they did on the mission site?
100% agree. 10x it.
Yeah.
I would tell our students that, and I meant this, absolutely meant this. I go, when people ask me, did we have a successful trip? I go, I don't know yet. Success will be defined how they translate the gospel back into the local schools. Success will be defined where
Woo!
are they at 3 and 6 months down the road? Did they truly learn the spiritual habits of I'm missional in my lifestyle, or just I go do missions? I'm going to preach. Let's stop doing missions. Let's become missional. And it's the heavy lifting is not sharing the gospel with someone. There's no relational collateral damage, if you will, like sharing with somebody that you never see again and they reject you. That doesn't cost
Right.
you. What cost you is the guys on your basketball team or your football team or in marching band who are like, really, you're a Jesus freak, and now you got to live through that drama for the next 8 months because you identified as a follower of Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's good.
And that's why, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing this with my hands. That's why the team must be one. Philippians 1:27, the verse we memorized. Striving as one person for the faith of the gospel. A Roman army lined up shield to shield like a massive bulldozer that couldn't be stopped for 500 years.
Come on.
Okay? Because they locked arms, they locked shields together, and they marched. And we are like one. So, I mean, I could go off on that, but I'll chill.
I love it. You get
Let's
on
move
that
into
soapbox, brother.
I love hanging out with you, man. Um, Number 4, the actual student, the individual student. As adults, student to student, what can we do to help those that went on our trip continue forth?
Yep. So the ice cream shop that you overwhelmed,
Yeah.
I I think the greatest thing I can do is once we get home,
By
depending
the way,
on the
they knew we were
student.
coming. They knew we were coming. Heads up.
You should, if they knew you were coming, you should have even tried to bargain for a couple scoops of free ice cream.
And it was
Like if
cool.
I'm
They said,
bringing,
"Hey," and they actually said you can clear out these tables and then play Mafia and stuff like that. So they're cool about it.
that's so cool. Well, I think, you know, is it Ephesians 2 that the job of the church is to equip the saints for the work of the church?
Four,
So
yeah.
I think what I need to do is when I get home to get into the ears of that student's small group leader that's been
Hmm.
walking with them for so many years and say, "Hey, take this kid out for ice cream, take him out for coffee, do what you can to be a separate set of eyes and ears for me, but will you keep the foot
Yes.
on the gas with this student? Because there's 9,000 of them, there's one of me, but I've got a huge leadership team. And how do I delegate some of that discipleship, follow up responsibility with the student? That's where I think you're winning in both your leadership team and your students because you're
Yep.
delegating that fragile, beautiful responsibility to the leader that
Yes.
might have a little bit more bandwidth to do it.
Well, and I keep saying last episode, but leaning into this because we had camp 2 weeks later. That was the time I did my one-on-ones to follow up and to circle back with each one of our 25 that went. And I would, and I did, and I loved it. And I said 3 months before the trip in our initial one-on-one with me, Pastor Rich, in the interview, when we finished the interview, I said, "What is one goal for you personally? What is one goal for your team?"
Oh,
And I
I
said,
love that.
after the trip, when we go to summer camp, after the trip, we're going to circle back and talk through this. Tim, I shared with you offline, but I'm going to share it now with every one of us. What was so cool was overwhelmingly year after year, the number one theme of the number one goal these individual students wanted to see God do it in their lives was this. They say, "Rich, I've never led someone to Jesus before. I want to lead someone to faith in Jesus."
I love
Come
it.
on. So this is where talk about low hanging fruit. So this is where, circling back and saying, "Hey, I saw you got to share the gospel," and maybe someone did not respond. Yes, but that's where the beauty of God's hand comes in. We're to present the gospel. He brings them into repentance, but we are not to abdicate our responsibility of go therefore and make disciples. So you were faithful in presenting the word of His grace and word of the Lord. Now, how do we set you up to do that when you go back to school? So I just
Woo.
love the one-on-one. So as a student pastor, to me it's know your sheep, bro. Know your sheep.
Yep.
So I can do 25. Come on. Then you also 2x it with then they have their small group leader doing similar. And if they have a good and godly parent, same thing there. They're getting all these multiple touches, which we know the 4, 5, 6 adult, touch points means you're going to stay in church. So
Yep.
we
Yeah.
got to follow up with them one on one, not just how'd you like the trip? What was your favorite part? Go deeper. What did God do in you? So again, I get jacked up.
Man, I gotta, you know what? As you were talking, I gotta figure out how to get you hired at my church and just let you be like the OG student pastor of my ministry, dude. I gotta figure out how to get you to Greenville.
It was funny. When I was speaking last week at a place about an hour and a half from here, their youth pastor just resigned the Sunday. Good dude, very good dude. He resigned that Sunday before their like stay camp. There's like a mission camp out of their church, like right in the area, which is cool. Then I spoke in the evenings. Thursday night, these girls walk up. "Hey man, would you come be our youth pastor?" I said, "Well,
Come
if
on.
you don't have
I
community
don't blame
20,
them. I don't blame them. I'm 41. I'm
I
not a little girl. I want you to
no
come be my youth pastor.
no secret. I will die saying, 'Where's more teenagers? I need to share Jesus.'" I
Come
love it.
on. So good, Doc.
One thing I think we can do too is like equipping that student to share their story, not just in front of their students, their peers, but even before we leave, if they can learn to craft a 5 minute, or we use it for elevator talk, elevator pitch, what
Yeah,
is, so
yeah,
in other words, they're already ready to share, Tim. So when an adult at their church or their grandparent, whoever says, "Hey, what did God do?" They're all ready to go. They're not like tongue tied, right? So again, we're
yep.
really, that's part of Ephesians 4 equipping. But I just want that student to know you are loved, you are valued, and you are seen. That's the phrases we use. but we've got you. We're not going to just drop you off. We are with you, walking with you to as seasoned adults in your life to mature you in the faith.
Whew,
Huge.
that's good because I mean you're covering all that confidence building,
Yeah.
gospel fluency, all those things. I even thought of one other way
Yeah.
we
What's
can
that?
equip them. So we do a domestic mission trip. We also do a foreign mission trip.
Right. Right. Hmm.
And you have to go on domestic first before you can do foreign.
Jerusalem before ends of
And
the earth. Yep.
yeah, because here's the deal. If I can't trust you in North Carolina, I know I can't trust you in South America. Like if you
I agree.
can't be on time in North Carolina, like so what I
I agree.
like about that, I think I remember you talking about inviting students into leadership roles.
Yes.
I think that's big to say, look, when you're faithful with a little, you can be, God's going to trust you with a
Hmm.
lot. And so, even thinking through some of those ways of equipping them, yes, to share their story, but also to continue to grow and mature in the faith, but also trickling in those leadership roles. Man, I think that's special.
For me, the highlight of my year wasn't certain events. It was the 3 months of training those students every Sunday for 3 months, equipping them. And then when we get on site, watching those juniors and seniors that were the senior leadership team, peers, right? Me taking my hands off and kind of
Yep.
truly coaching from the sideline. I'm not even sharing the gospel on the stage. Our senior leadership guys and gals were doing this. They were the ones actually running the VBS, running the different outreaches we did. And my wife and I and some other leaders, we just kind of stepped back. We were there to kind of prop them up, encourage them, answer the questions because our heavy lifting was pre. It was their time, Tim Tebow, right? Their night to shine. It was their night to shine. Okay. And yeah, it was building leadership. But now, the host site, I think, Tim, we forget about, unfortunately, we can forget and leave them hanging until we need them again. It's like, oh, where are we going to go next year? So I think we need to do
Yeah.
much better. And I gave a lot of examples last episode, and I'm going to wrap this up soon here. But is there anything that you picked up or you are doing how to stay connected? Because I loved going back to the same site for that consistency factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I I got to admit, I'm not good at this.
Okay.
Like when I was listening to it and processing it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is all really, really smart. I have relationships with these guys in my personal lives,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of good follow up between me and them. I've not welcomed our students into that. So I got
Yeah.
to start thinking through how do I welcome in those key students, those key pieces into maintaining the healthy relationship, the encouragement part, the gratitude part.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't do that well. And I gotta start thinking through
Yeah.
welcoming
Good.
my students into that so we can do it together because we know discipleship is caught, not taught.
Yes. Well, let's go there. It's what we're doing right now, meaning we're using the tools that we now have in 21st century. As much
Yeah.
as our internet today has been wonky, the fact is we can FaceTime, Zoom, whatever social platform you want to use. We can actually connect in our student ministry, for example, in your home base, your room. I've been there, awesome room, with actually them in their room, whether it's a state or two away or even a nation away. We all there
Yep.
people in Africa, different nations in Africa have internet access. It's truly
Yeah.
global. There,
Yep.
think about that. Just not leader to leader, yes and amen, but also the students to those students. You could set up specific times to almost have like youth group together. Bro, seriously, you could do corporate worship together. There's so many things you could do. Prayer times together,
Yep.
when you're staying connected with them and they with you.
Yeah. That's so key. And I think too, keeping the story alive, you really
Mhm.
nailed it with that. I do think there's intentional things we can do as communicators of God's word to trickle it into the semester. So let's say you're
Right,
teaching on a passage. It's really, really helpful, right? To go, hey guys, remember back in June, remember
right.
back in July. This is
Mhm.
what Paul in Romans is talking about. These are the
Mhm.
things. Don't
Mhm.
forget what God did and how that ties into our passage tonight. I love keeping the story alive. That's a
Yes.
brilliant concept to consider.
And I might, and I, again, I'm getting cranked up on this, and not just living in the past.
Get
We,
cranked,
we
Rach.
celebrate the past, but that should make us better moving forward. And and this is where you guys have got the history now with that group, and your students pretty much like fell in love with those other students in that ministry site, those people there, and then now they know each other's stories, continuing on. And hopefully, if you can go back that same site the next year, that's where I loved going back to the same Hispanic church we were serving. They're not our project, dude. They are not our project.
Yeah.
We're not here to bail them out. They're not our project. We are co-laborers together. Come on, tweet that, Tim.
Yes.
X that, whatever you want to say. We are co-laborers with them, and we should be Barnabas's sons of encouragement to them. So
Oh man.
there's so
That's
much
so
we can do.
good.
So listener, think what amazing things could you do to stay connected and keep serving and loving on, praying for, etc. Those people. We're going to be going to draw this to a close, Tim, because you and I could talk all day because we just love each other, hanging out, all that good stuff. Take us home. Call to action.
Yeah. So, the call to action that I feel the Holy Spirit is encouraging my own heart, that I would really implore any listener that's tuning in to process this with us. I love to harp on what we're great at. I don't like poking the bear of what we stink at. And God has been really kind to put resources and tools and people in my life to say, hey, I know it looks like we're killing it, but a lot of people aren't really focusing on these ways that we can grow and mature and tweak. So I would encourage anyone that's listening to go, okay, I'm good at this. And instead
Mm-hmm.
of harping on what I'm good at, maybe start thinking through what's one baby step that we can do to alter what this time next year looks like. I mean,
Right.
for me, it's that fifth pillar. I'm
Yeah.
not
Okay.
good
Yeah.
at that. I think call to action is just identify what you're currently doing really, really well, and then praise
Mm-hmm.
God for that, and then get some safe people in a room that you trust and say, okay, first off, I want you guys to listen to Doc Brown's podcast. I believe in Next Gen Matters. I want you guys to read the notes, the email, the podcast. Let's get some pizza later, and I want you guys to evaluate where we know where we stink, but what do we need to do to
Yeah.
maybe tweak that and grow and mature? And so I think that's
So
really
good.
important. I
It's
think
so good.
anyone listening, your inner circle, we all have an inner circle.
Yes.
They need to know what we're growing in and what we're listening to and what we're processing.
Mm-hmm.
I think a beautiful call to action is let your leadership team in on it. Maybe some key parents that are safe and you trust, and they have wisdom, and welcome them in to that. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to be born from that.
That's so good, man. Man, as we land the plane here, when you follow up intentionally at home in the local church through your student ministry, the actual student, the host site, you're not just celebrating what God did. I love this, Tim. You're multiplying it. You're
Mm.
multiplying it. So, listener, thank you so much for listening to or watching the Next Gen Matters podcast. Remember, if today has really ministered to you, get plugged in with us. Send me that text. Send me that. Many of you have my number. If you don't, at least drop a comment in there, and I'll reach out to you personally. I want to connect with you as listeners. That's what
And can I
you know
interrupt
me.
you?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're listening and you just heard what Doc Brown said, he really will do that. That's not just lip service. He's the real deal, man. He's in the trenches. He loves student pastors. So if you're listening, take him up on that.
I do. God has called me in this next and probably last season of my life to how can I help be that bigger, not bigger, but older brother to those that are women and men who are serving, whether you're just, I say just, that's even bad. Whether you're a small group leader and you feel like my ministry is not big, I don't care. God has put you in a place of influence, whether it's three, go for it. I
Oh
want
yeah.
to be that resource to say, carry on the work. I'm reading Spurgeon right now, lectures to my students. Every day I get to hang out with Pastor Spurgeon. I'm getting fired up, man, and going, gosh, it's so good. Lectures to my students, read it 15 years ago, rereading it again. I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. And I mean that, right? I'm reading some
Man, I
Dallas
can't
Willard.
wait.
I'm reading some
Yeah, I
Dallas Willard
can't.
right now. I mean, this is awesome. I want to keep learning and growing, and I want to be
Yeah.
that resource for you guys as well. So that's what we do next Gen Matters.
Well, and
Bada
I
bing,
can't
bada
wait
boom.
to have you to our winter retreat in
Yeah.
February. We're having you come all the way down to South Carolina to be our winter retreat teacher slash preacher, and man, I can't wait.
Well, you got great students. I love it. So thanks, buddy. Hey, listen, remember your leadership matters because your ministry matters because the gospel matters. Take care. Take care. No, take Claire. Claire who? Take care. Take care. This
Take
next one.
Claire.
Take care in Claire. And God bless you guys. Bye bye.